How are my favorite girls in the world doing? Today we're going to be talking about the 3 lessons I wish I had learned in my early 20s because unfortunately no one taught me these. I had to figure it all out by myself, and it's not that learning these lessons is going to make your path towards your manifestations quicker, but it's also going to make it easier. It's going to make it smoother. You're not going to have so many struggles and so many bumps in the road because you understand these. And by the end of this episode, you're going to learn how to integrate it into your life. You're going to know how to embody the energy of these lessons, and ultimately it's just gonna make your life so much easier once you understand these and you can put them into practice. So we're really gonna dive deep into these 3 main lessons. These were the lessons that my spirit guides kind of channeled through me. There's so many more, for sure. There's so many more, but those are the ones that I always share on the podcast, and I always talk about all of these things either way, but I really wanted to bring like the 3 core lessons that I think really helped me separate from most people my age, but also like kind of dive into a place where a lot of people that are older than me, like they always say how mature I am, how, oh, like you have so much of your life figured out or blah, blah. Like, not that I feel that way at all, but I do know that a lot of people that I admire when they were 25, which is where I'm at right now, they were not where I am. And it took a lot to learn these lessons. It took a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, and I don't want you to go through it. So hopefully, I can spare you. But so let's just get right ahead. Like, I feel like this is a very get to the point type of episode. So the first lesson that I think I really wanted to bring here that has shaped me, especially in the last 2 years, is it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to seek support. And actually, you shouldn't have to do this alone. You shouldn't have to figure it all out by yourself. I'm not saying that someone is going to have the answers that you need. To a certain degree, they won't, okay? Like, there's things that only you are going to be able to know about yourself. And this is where, prioritizing yourself is so important, which is we're going to talk about that. But understanding who you are and understanding you is the most valuable thing you can start doing in your 20s either way, right? Like, because you spent your teenage years on autopilot. That's really what we are. We are on autopilot, and we are just a reflection of our childhood. But then we go into a moment where we start asking ourselves certain questions and our consciousness starts coming out. And that's when we're being given the opportunity to change our path if it doesn't serve us anymore, right? And so these are just natural questions that are going to bubble up, like, who am I? What do I want? Blah, blah, blah. But just because you have those answers, those questions to answer, and just because a lot of that comes from within and really exploring yourself, it does not mean that you shouldn't ask for support. And nothing has helped me grow more than having help, than going to therapy, than having a coach, than having a friend that I can truly rely on and that truly has my back, all those things have helped me so much. And I don't think I could be where I am today if I did not have that type of support. Even at some moments in my life where I asked my own parents for help, which I don't usually do, but just asking them and recognizing I need help. I do not know how to remove myself from this situation. And I'm specifically talking about my 7-year relationship. I did not know how to find the strength to do it on my own. So I asked for help. I was sending 30-minute audios to my friends, and they were listening there by my side, accepting me and loving me, although I was hating on myself for staying. I asked my dad to come pick me up because I knew I couldn't leave on my own, and all these different things. And I went to therapy at the time, and I had 10 different sessions of therapy, and I was doing the fucking work, I was really willing to look at myself, and that shifted everything, because when you are willing to confront those things, it makes you more powerful. It makes you so much more powerful because you are accepting yourself, because you're looking at the parts of you that you usually avoid, and those are exactly the parts of you that help you grow and help you evolve. Because it's hard to explain this, but when you're compartmentalizing yourself and you're okay, these parts of me are worthy, these parts of me aren't, these parts of me I get to show to the world, and these parts I have to hide away, these parts of me I accept and I love, and these parts of me I hate and I neglect and I abandon, and I reject, that compartmentalizing yourself doesn't help you move forward. It actually makes you stuck, because you need all of you to to move forward. You can't just move one feet and take a step, like you need to move the other two. You need all of you to move forward. And I did not know how to do that work on my own. Like, I needed help. I needed support because I didn't have the answers. I didn't have the expertise. I didn't have the blueprint or the guidelines on how to get that done, because we are not taught these things growing up. Like, no one teaches us how to be emotionally intelligent, how to find ourselves, how to figure out our lives in our 20s, especially in our 20s, because it's so messy. It still feels messy for me, don't get me wrong, but no one really teaches these things to us. No one gives us the tools to learn how to navigate the challenges in our lives, and especially the challenges that we face within. And especially as women, when our emotions run so deep and when we're going through all those cycles that we go through, it's so hard to learn how to fully embrace that and work with it, instead of pushing it away in order for oh, let's just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Instead of doing that, learning to use that in our favor. We're not really taught those things, and that makes us weaker, actually. That takes power away from us, because we're not embracing who we are. We're not really embracing our essence. We're not really embracing our nature. And that only creates more friction. That only creates more, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember. That only creates more, either way, that only creates more friction. That just makes your path harder, because you're not going with the flow. You're not allowing yourself to move in alignment. You're forcing yourself to move in a way that maybe you were taught. You're forcing yourself to push your emotions away, or push the tiredness away, or ignore your body's signals and cues because you were taught to do that. And that, I remembered, that creates resistance rather than actually expanding your life and allowing it to open up. Because the energy of receiving, the energy of being open to opportunities, that is relaxation, that is allowing, that is letting go, and this energy of surrender. If you are in the energy of always trying to take control of everything and blah, 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 especially as women, that completely goes against your nature and against your deep instinct and also your soul, and so when we are forcing, it doesn't allow us to flow where we're supposed to flow, where the most abundance is going to be. And this to say that we don't learn those tools, but someone does have those answers, and there are people out there that can teach us that, exactly those things. And whether it's that you find a book or multiple books, or you find a podcast that you love, hopefully this one, or that you hire someone to help you, whether that's a therapist or a coach, or you go into a membership, whatever it is, but understanding okay, what do I need support with right now? What is the thing that I can't seem to figure out for the fucking life of me? For example, right now in my life, I'm really learning to figure out my career and my money stuff, all my finances and all of that surrounds my success, and basically the career side of my life. Those are things that I'm figuring out, and I know I need support with, because the truth is my consciousness around these things is small compared to someone who knows more, right? I do not have the perspective to be able to choose something different, because I don't know anything different, right? So when you have someone else's perspective, someone who's been through it, but someone who has been able to see the other side, someone who knows what works and the tools that are needed to finally unstuck yourself and move forward. Someone who has perspective, who's seen it happen, who's, seen other people, who has the testimonials, who has the proof. When you don't have that, your subconscious mind will always try to trick you into staying in the same place, because it does not know any better. And it's not going to want to, go into uncharted lands and try to explore something that it doesn't know, because it feels threatening. But when you have someone that is walking that path with you, holding your hand and telling you giving you perspective and kind of opening up your consciousness to a new reality, to new possibilities, that makes so much difference in your life, because it's hard to move forward when you're not expanding that consciousness, when you're not expanding that perspective and your understanding of whatever area of your life you want to work with, including yourself. And so having someone that has some kind of guideline, that has that perspective, that has the wisdom, because they've gathered that through their own experiences, through maybe teaching other people, through their own studies, like whatever it is, but having that can be so impactful for your life. Because if you only stay with the consciousness and the things that you already know, you're not going to be able to outgrow those things. You're not going to be able to move forward in your path, and it's only going to make you feel stuck, and all your potential is not going to be explored because you're not really like expanding beyond that. You know, like you have that feeling, you have that flame inside of you, but it's hard to fully like lean on that and harness that energy and harness that potential when you're not sure how to like put it into, you know, your life, how to manifest that, how to bring it forward and fully use that full capacity. But then when you have someone who shows you how to do that, and when you have someone who like hints you towards like certain things, it's not always that they know what's best for you and you don't. Like you always have to feel it out, obviously, because ultimately you do possess a lot of wisdom already. Like you are connected to spirit, you are connected to the universe, you are connected to your higher self, and learning how to, you know, use that connection, that's also important. That's also support that you get to seek out. Like if it wasn't for my spirit guides, if it wasn't for the deities that I've worked with, I would not be where I am. They also gave me perspective, they also gave me wisdom. And this wisdom wasn't in books. This wasn't someone who told me these things. Like I learned them through my own connection to the divine and through spirit. And I think that's really important as well, to learn how to connect with that. And I could totally create an entire, you know, episode just about this. So definitely let me know below if that's something that you want to hear. Comment spirit guides and comment spirit guides, and I'll know that you want to hear more about this, because that was such a big part of my journey personally. You know, like that's where I started, actually, through leaning into spirituality and into witchcraft and being really into working with, you know, my spirit guides and my deities and doing tarot and asking for their support and praying to them and doing spells and having guidance that came through from my own, you know, connection to that source. That really helped me, and that continues to help me. Like I'm always asking for their assistance. They're giving me downloads and ideas of things that I can do, and they're kind of hinting me towards a certain path. They're like helping me stay in alignment with my goals and with the things that I want. So it's not just that you have to pay someone to help you, although that in itself is so powerful, because when you put money, and money is energy, and when you put those resources towards your growth, it's inevitable that you're gonna, you know, get that times 10. It's inevitable that you're gonna accelerate that process for you, because it's kind of like you are saying to the universe and you're saying to yourself, like, this is how much I'm worth, this is how much I want to make this happen. It's like a commitment that you're making with yourself. So there is value in investing actual money into support, but there's also value in knowing that there is something within you that can also support you, and your intuition is there. You can connect with your higher self. And you know what, I'm totally gonna do a meditation around that for Patreon, because that excites me so much. You know, your answers don't always have to come from logic. Knowing where to go next does not always have to come from making a rational decision of like, okay, what are the pros, what are the cons? Sometimes you just feel it out, and that's a connection that's like unbreakable. And I trust that above anything else. It never leads you astray. And the more you learn to trust that intuition, the more you learn to trust that guidance, the easier your path becomes, and the more aligned it feels, and the more fulfilled it's gonna feel, you know, your life is gonna feel. So that also counts as support. So whatever, you know, tickles your fancy, whatever you resonate with, explore that avenue and really allow yourself to have help, to be supported. I think sometimes we're really like, at least me, okay, maybe I should speak from my personal experience, but I wanted to be hyper independent, because that's the kind of, like, that's how I learned to exist as a person. You know, growing up, I did not feel like I could rely on my parents, especially emotionally. Like, I always kept it to myself. I always did that work. I didn't even know that was work, but I always did that. You know, those reflections and grieving and heartbreak and all those things. Like, I did that with myself. I didn't really lean on my parents. I didn't really ask them for help. I didn't really cry on their shoulder. sometimes I wish I did, but I didn't feel safe emotionally to do so at the time because they didn't really create that space for us. Like, there was much more unsafety than safety, much more threatening energy than, oh, this is home and I can rely on you and I can like lean on you and I can cry. Like, no, I was the one, you know, supporting my mom through like her own tears, you know, not the other way around at all. And so like I learned to rely on myself to a point where it almost became like a proudful thing. Like, I stopped wanting to rely on others. Like, oh, I can figure it out. I got this. Like, no one knows what's best for me besides me. And some of that came from arrogance and from ego and from being scared of being vulnerable with others and being scared of showing my own weaknesses, because that's always something that I've tried to avoid. Like, I've never really liked the idea of like looking at the parts of me that feel broken, because at the deep rooted wounds that I have, that's one of the biggest ones. It's feeling so shattered and feeling such deep emotions that I feel completely broken, because you do have to kind of break yourself in order to like access certain things within yourself. You have to dismantle, you have to like fall apart a little bit. And that has become something that I'm a bit more, you know, feeling secure with and feeling safe with, because again, like, you do have to die to be reborn 100%. That is inevitable, but you get to do that with support, and that makes it easier, not because it feels easier, but because at least you're not like dwelling on it. You know, you have someone who can snap you out of it. You have someone who can guide you through it, who can give you better tools so that you're not, just like making it worse. Because if you can only just re-trigger yourself, and that's only going to get you stuck on a loop. And if you don't know what to do with this new information or a new realization or all these emotions that are like trying to come up to the surface, if you do not know how to hold that, like, you're going to find yourself going through the same cycle all over again, ignoring it and avoiding it and pushing it away and distracting yourself. And so you never go to the root of what can actually allow you to grow, right? And so I found myself in that place. Like, I was super hyper independent when it came to my emotions. And the only person I ever truly like allowed in was my romantic partners. Those were the only people, because deep down, I wanted them to save me. I wanted them to be my person, and I only felt safe. Interesting. I only felt safe when I was loved by someone, like romantically. And I think that's why I was always hopping from relationship to relationship. I actually never thought about it this way. But yeah, I looked for that safety in a romantic partner, but I did not feel that safety within myself. And so the thing about seeking support is not about seeking for someone to save you or finding someone who can fix you. It's more about understanding that there's nothing to be fixed and there's so much to be accepted. That there's nothing that is actually broken. There's just parts of you that haven't been seen in a while, that haven't been loved in a while. And knowing how to do that is a process. Like, learning how to show up for those parts of yourself is a process. And so having support, someone who can take you step by step, is so helpful. When I did therapy, that changed my life, because I already wanted to do the work, but I didn't know how to like fully go deeper into things, right? Like I could have done 1,000 journal prompts and shadow work sessions or whatever, but I could have never hit the spots quite as well as when I was doing therapy, because she could see more than I did. She had more knowledge, so she had more understanding of what was actually happening inside myself, and she cracked me open in a way that allowed my consciousness to expand, and that helped me heal, and that helped me learn to love myself more, because I could finally see the things for what they truly were. I couldn't see them before because I was biased and honestly ignorant, like unaware. Ignorant not in a bad way, but just like unaware. I did not understand myself because I was never taught to understand myself to that deeper level. But it's when you go into that depth that you find all your strength, and you find all your gifts, and you find your like deepest light, you know, a deepest connection to who you truly are. Your essence exists, like, once you start exploring all the things that make you want to push yourself away from yourself, if that makes sense. So that was definitely really important for me. And I think that you should seek out for help and support as soon as possible. You should not try to figure this all out on your own out of pride, out of fear of investing in yourself, out of fear of, losing money, or being a waste. Because I know so many of us have that belief of like, oh, like my money should go towards like essential things, and these things, like, I don't know, having a therapist or having a coach or having blah blah blah, like, or going into a membership or having certain tools, like those things are not like survival, so basically they're a waste of my money. Or what if I need that money for something else? Like, there's always these fears, and I really get that, because I wasn't always in a position where it was comfortable for me to invest in myself. Like a lot of like, even to this day, like investing in myself still feels like a stretch. And I've invested a lot of myself over the past 2-3 years, because I realized the impact that it had. Because 3 months, 2 months, even 1 month of having that person support me helped me advance like maybe 1 year, So that was really fucking powerful. And so do not wait for a better moment or for better circumstances to accept help. Do not wait for that moment. And again, it can be in so many ways. It can be going to women's circles and sharing your pain with other people, sharing your grief, or sharing the parts of yourself that you're ashamed of. It can be going to therapy, but it can also be connecting to your spirit guides. It can be journaling, or it can be asking help from your siblings or your parents, or admitting like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I need help. Or just the single act of admitting that you don't have it all figured out, and that maybe you're scared, or maybe that you're lost, like just that piece of acceptance is so powerful, and it's going to help you move forward. Like, that's been my single focus in the past, I'd say 6 months. It's been, instead of trying to fix myself and instead of trying to like figure it all out, I'm just going to accept myself first. That's going to be my priority. Like, okay, I'm feeling this way. Instead of trying to like, okay, come up with a solution right away, just first accept it. Just first let it be there. Just first, like, instead of seeing it as a bad thing, as like something that's going to keep me from my goals, I see it as like, I'm going to embrace this, and it's okay that this is here, and it does not make me unworthy or not enough for the things that I desire. I do not have to be perfect in order to have the things that I desire. All these things are coming as downloads, by the way, so definitely take your notes if you want, because I feel like these are one in a lifetime type of information that can really click for you if you listen to it closely, but so that's been really important for me. And so that's the first lesson. I really want you to think about, what type of support would I find and would I seek out for if I wasn't scared of the money part, and if I truly prioritized helping myself. Because ultimately, you are your biggest investment. There's nothing more valuable than you. You are your biggest asset, because you create your reality. Your reality is a reflection of you, of your internal world, of your thoughts, of your emotional state, of your well-being, of your beliefs about yourself and your beliefs about the world, how you relate to other things in your life. Like, all of that starts within you, right? And so it is important to prioritize that. If you're not prioritizing that, then you're stuck in thinking about the circumstances and trying to change the outcome without changing the cause of what creates the outcome. You understand that? Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just change your circumstances and then everything changes, because even if you end up being able to change it for a moment, it's going to come back to the same place, because patterns don't change just because something changes. They change because you become so different that it just doesn't repeat again. It's the same way with, I know that I'm never going to choose someone like my ex again, because I know I broke that pattern. I went deep into myself, into that healing, and I understood what was underneath, and I worked through it so deeply and so intensely and for so long that I know nowadays that like, that's not something that's even going to find me. That's not something that's even going to like show up for me anymore, because I simply do not resonate with it anymore. So I had to go, and I could only do that work, and I could only be in that place where I know that's not going to repeat itself. I could only do that because I asked for support and because I didn't do it on my own and because I was so committed to that work. And you should be too. There's nothing more valuable than that. And the sooner you start investing in yourself, the sooner you can move forward. The sooner you can unlock new levels of abundance and possibilities and love. And the sooner you can get yourself unstuck from the loops and the cycles that you're noticing you're constantly getting back to. If you're ready to enter your most iconic main character era, then you need to stick around and hear this, okay? Before we keep going to the rest of the episode, I want to take a moment to talk about the Girls in Growth Patreon, which is a new addition to our world. And this is the place where you're going to learn to align with your dream life and live like your higher self so that you can attract all the things that you desire. All your manifestations, all your biggest dreams and goals are going to come to life because you are going to become the woman who naturally attracts them. You are going to learn the foundations that are going to make you more confident, more magnetic, and more unstoppable. So definitely go check it out because on Patreon, you're going to receive all the tools, all the practices, all the step-by-step processes that allowed me to come so far in my journey. And I decided to share them all with you inside the Patreon. There's a 7-day free trial available for you if you want to check it out to see if it aligns with what you want and what you need right now. I'm going to leave the link in the description of this episode. Definitely go check it out. I love you. Nothing beats you putting your money, your attention, your focus, and all the support that you can find towards yourself, because ultimately, like, that's what will allow you to live life to the fullest. Okay, so that's the first lesson. The second lesson that I also think it's really important, and I actually mentioned this, I think was on the last episode, and I really felt connected to exploring that a bit with you, which is you are going to lose yourself many times and you're going to find yourself many times. And you can do that. Like, you can lose yourself, because the thing about your 20s is that you are figuring out who you are when you're not being this automatic version of you that comes from your, old habits and old patterns and the things that you learned growing up. When you start becoming your own person, you are going to be completely reborn, and it's going to feel like there's a blank page, and you're going to question everything, and everything is going to feel new, and everything is going to feel confusing, and you're not going to understand who you are or where you're meant to go, and that's going to feel really scary a lot of the times. But what I want to tell you is there's no danger there. It's normal to not know who you are and not know what you want. It's normal to lose yourself many times, and you can do it. It's safe, and you should. It's just part of the process. It's gonna happen, because see, for you to grow, you also need to outgrow the versions of yourself that don't serve you, and that requires you to completely rebuild your identity over and over again. That's how you become the woman of your dreams, by really letting go of the things that do not align with that. And those are going to be sometimes the core beliefs and wounds that you have attached to your identity to. If you've always believed that you're unlovable, if you've always believed that you're not enough, if you've always believed that you're not deserving of the life that you want, if you've always seen yourself as introverted or anxious or blah, blah, and suddenly you're moving forward and you're realizing that you get to choose a different path and you get to choose something different for yourself, like, you are going to notice that that's going to come into conflict with who you've always thought you were. And that's going to feel, first of all, really threatening, really scary, super terrifying, but also, like, it's understanding, like, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel that sense of threat to your identity. It's okay to have such a big breakthrough that you're like, what the fuck is my life? Like, who am I? What is this for? Like, I don't know who I am. I feel lost. Everything is falling apart. And it's really just you shedding a version of your old identity that does not serve you anymore. That process is so important. And I'm still going through it. I'm not even figuring out who I am. I feel like I'm always learning to accept parts of myself, but most importantly, I'm figuring out who I want to be, because you get to shape that. Like, you get to change who you are so that you can become who you want to become. You get to be confident. You get to be successful. You get to be wealthy. You get to, be someone who is kind and honest, but also super powerful, and, someone who owns her boundaries, someone who is not stuck in people pleasing. Like, you get to literally change your identity at any point in your life. And right now, that's going to require you to question who you've always been. That's going to require you to, really feel like you're nothing like you were before. That's gonna feel really weird, really unsafe, really uncomfortable. But I just want you to know that that's normal, that's okay, and it is safe to do so. And again, having support helps with that process, because my last therapy session was so revealing. It was so uncomfortable for me to recognize certain parts of myself, recognize some of the shame, some of the guilt that I think I've tried to reject in myself, and I've tried to push aside, because it felt threatening to own those parts of myself. If I recognize this shame, and if I recognize that maybe I feel guilty, or maybe I feel regret towards certain decisions that I've made in my past, if I recognize that, and if I recognize that maybe I did choose certain things wrong, maybe it means that I'm fucked up and things are not going to work out, and sometimes recognizing parts of yourself and allowing yourself to face yourself just as much as you're allowing yourself to lose yourself. Because believe me, when you recognize certain parts of your shadow self, that's gonna threaten your identity. If you've always played a role as I'm super confident, blah, blah, but deep down you were just really fucking insecure, and maybe your walls were super up and you never let anyone in, and suddenly you recognize all of those things, that's gonna threaten the identity that you've built around I can do it all by myself, I don't need anyone, I'm hyper independent, it's gonna threaten that exact identity, to recognize your wounds, to recognize the things that you usually run away from. So it's not necessarily that you're just rediscovering yourself all over and over again, but it's more in the sense that you are digging deeper into who you are, into everything that has made you so far, that is going to make you feel you're going to question then the perception that you have of yourself, the concept that you have of yourself. And that's a good thing, because from that place you find an openness to rebuild. You find the extra consciousness to maybe ask yourself some deeper questions, and maybe be more intentional towards who you truly want to be. And so that is such an important process, and I wish I knew that sooner, because I spent my entire teenage to early 20s years terrified of not knowing who I was, of not knowing what I wanted, of not having a specific goal in life, or a specific not having a vision for my life. I really did not have that for such a long time, mostly because I was rejecting most of myself, but being in that energy, it was terrifying to me. And I always felt so threatened by it that I never really allowed myself to be alone, to have my space, to ask myself questions, to get to know myself, because I was terrified of asking myself certain questions, and I was terrified of seeing under the curtain, or under the rug, not under the curtain, seeing under the rug and seeing all the shit that I was hiding away from. But those were the things that were actually defining me at the end of the day, because they weren't allowing me to become the woman that deep down I knew I could be, right? And so because I was trying so hard to avoid those questions and to avoid feeling even more lost, I was just leaning into my, toxic relationship, because he gave me a sense of identity. I started shaping my identity around that relationship, to the point where so many of my bigger life decisions, so much of who I was becoming, so much of how I grew up was shaped because of that relationship. So many of my, literally, I do not know who I would have become without that, I don't know, because that's how much it shaped me. And I guess I'm grateful for it, obviously, because I'm here today, but, I did not have a life of my own. I moved according to what was best for the relationship, or what I felt would make it survive longer, and that did not allow me to maybe explore certain parts within myself, and that didn't allow me to feel good on my own, and it only made me feel more insecure and more disempowered in my life, because I was putting all my sense of safety, all my sense of security, and truly all my sense of self in him. And that's why it's so important to be okay with losing yourself, because when you're not scared of that, you become your own support. You become so secure in who you are because you're not scared that the house is going to fall apart, because you know how to rebuild. And you're not scared that suddenly you recognize, this room doesn't look exactly like I want it. You're not scared of seeing yourself. You're not scared of facing those parts of you anymore. And that gives you the capacity to then become who you truly are, to align with who you want to be, to take responsibility for the changes that you want to see in yourself. If you're not willing to lose yourself, if you're not willing to feel like you don't know who you are, then you're actually just stopping your own growth. You need to give yourself that space of handling the unknown. And there's nothing more scary about the unknown than feeling like you're, threatening everything you've ever known, which is you. Because ultimately, your entire reality and your entire, how you process things and how you experience life comes from you. And if you change you, it changes your perception of everything. It changes everything you've ever known. So it's normal that it's very scary, and it should be. But from the sense of it's just part of the process. Just because it's scary doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just because it's scary doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes the scariest place you can go to is the place that's going to help you grow the most. I've learned that the hard way. And so hopefully you won't have to. But again, knowing this doesn't make it easy. It just makes you more empowered in understanding that you don't have to run away from those hard places. You don't have to run away, The best thing you can do for yourself is that. It's just face it. It's just be with yourself. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself the hard questions. Allow yourself to indulge in that. To really understand, what do I value? What do I want out of my life? What does success mean to me? What does happiness mean to me? And understanding that maybe it doesn't look or it doesn't feel like what you were taught, and that's a good thing, because then you're understanding where your alignment is. And then you have a direction. Then you have a sense of inner guidance, because you finally kind of tune your compass into what actually brings you the most fulfillment and the most happiness. So that's a good thing. And finally, the third thing that I really want to talk about, the third lesson that I have here in my notes, is that romance shouldn't be the center of your life. And I wanted to talk about this because obviously I dated the same person for 7 years, and it was a whole fucking movie, and actually a whole fucking 10 season series. It was so intense, and I wish I had understood the importance of knowing myself, of spending time with me, of learning to enjoy my own company, of instead of prioritizing romance, because you have so much time to find that. I know it feels like we're always running out of time, and especially when you have put so much of your worth towards someone choosing you or not. I know how hard it is to detach from it, but it's so important to have your own sovereignty, have your own sense of self that is not dependent on a romantic partner, not even on friends, because in your 20s, you're going to lose friends. You're going to lose people. It's normal. It's part of it. We should embrace it. It's not easy and it's not pleasant, but it's needed, because again, a lot of the people that you have in your life, a lot of the circumstances that are in your life right now, that exist in your reality right now, you did not create them consciously. They were just a reflection of your old identity that didn't even come from you. It didn't come from your conscious decisions. It came from what you learned and what you were programmed into by your parents, by the people around you, by the society that you grew up around. All these things. It wasn't a you choice. And now you get to choose. So understanding that you exist beyond those relationships is really important, so that you can create your sense of identity and also start creating a specific or a more specific direction, a more clear direction in your life. And it doesn't mean that you have to know everything that you want. It doesn't mean that you have to have it all figured out, but you knowing you helps you understand, again, what you value and where you want to go and what type of life you want to live. Even if you don't know what you want to be when you grow up and all those types of things, that can change in your life. That's okay. Again, it's okay to lose yourself and find yourself, because you always do. But what I mean is it's so important to like explore yourself, and that should be your priority. Exploring yourself, exploring life, discovering new things, like doing the things that you love, and maybe thinking about your career, because your career, like, this is something that I'm realizing now. Your career is such an important structure in your life, because obviously, like, it gives you your independence, it gives you your financial freedom, it gives you like solid ground to walk on, right? So having that, I'd say, it's so much more important than having a partner, especially at our age. Like, we are not running out of time. We have plenty of time. And I just feel like it's so much more important to understanding that you are your own person, and learning to fall in love with life just as you are and where you are, without having to have someone to complete you. Learning how to pursue your passions and enjoy your hobbies, and, you know, travel on your own. Like, those things are so powerful. They make you so much more secure in yourself. And again, like, when you're putting all your focus and all the meaning in your life in finding someone, or someone choosing you, you are robbing yourself of so many opportunities. You are robbing yourself of so much expansion, of so much abundance, of so many experiences that you get to live still. You know, I'm not suggesting that, you know, if you found your partner and if you're happy, like, good for you, obviously, but you should still continue to invest in all these different areas of your life, because your life should be full. And it's not full just because you suddenly, like, have it all figured out in your career, or just because you have it all figured out in your relationships, or just because you love yourself. Like, it's a combination of all these different variables. Yeah, it's a combination of all these different variables that you need to focus on, that you need to, you know, put some energy towards. So I do think that it's important to decenter relationships. I really wish I had learned this sooner. My entire life was about him, and so many of the decisions that I made, I wonder if I would have made them, you know, if I wasn't in that relationship. And most of all, I have gained so much by focusing on myself and by making myself the center of my life. And it's not selfish to do so, because again, like we've talked about, you are the center of your life. You are, like, your life is all about you and what's happening internally, who you truly are at the deepest level. So knowing how to put yourself in center, knowing how to, like, shape your life through you, that's so meaningful and so impactful for the life that you're creating for yourself. So the way I would do this is, if I could go back in time and, you know, give myself advice, I would just be like, what do you love to do? What do you want to explore? What do you want? What are you curious about? Like, following your curiosity is so valuable. What are you curious about? What would you put on your bucket list? You know, I have this like before 30 bucket list. It literally says B of 4 and 30, before 30 bucket list, with all the things that I really want to explore. And I keep doing that, you know, creating my vision board, like making my life so much fuller, because that's the life that I want to live. And I don't want to force myself to be in a relationship in order to feel like I'm living my life. I don't want to, you know, make that what my life is about. And that really has allowed me to learn a lot and to grow the most. I don't think I would have grown as much as I did if I was focused on finding the one, if I was the most focused on finding a partner right now, because that's not going to fix my life for me. You know, the only thing that's going to give me a sense of direction and truly help me like expand is working on those areas of my life. It's figuring out those areas of my life. It's exploring those areas of my life. It's learning new skills and learning from people that I admire, and reading books about maybe finances or maybe self-development or maybe even romance books, obviously, like learning for pleasure, reading for pleasure, reading for fun. Of course you should, because that's also an area for our lives that we should explore: fun and pleasure and excitement, exploring our inner child. But basically, like, in your 20s, this is the best opportunity for you to really create the structures of your life, to create the like foundations that are going to help you build upon that, because ultimately you want your life to overflow. You want your life to overflow with abundance, with love, with excitement, with all the experiences that you want to like create for yourself. And so your 20s should be about creating that structure. And to create, you're gonna have to destroy, you're gonna have to, figure it out multiple times, you're gonna have to rebuild over and over again, and that's normal. But what I mean is like that should be your focus, not whether you have a relationship, because that's like the first floor, the second floor of your house. But if you don't have the fucking first floor, or the ground floor, I guess, if you don't have the fucking structure thingies, how can you build the first floor? It doesn't make sense. And it's almost inevitable that all those different things are naturally gonna fall apart or not really stick because you don't have any grounds to stick it on, and I think that's why it's so important. Like, really focus on the structural parts of your life, which is your self-concept, your career / financial independence. That's super important, and it's what I'm trying to prioritize right now. And I just invested again in more support, because I know I don't know how to do it on my own, and it doesn't have to be something that I shame myself about. I never learned it, and so I want to have the support of someone who knows, and I want to have the support of someone who can maybe like take me further than I can clearly take myself, because I don't know how to like step outside of where I am, and I don't know how to move forward. And so if I don't know, I'm gonna seek out for someone who does. And to me, that's my focus. But it's also my focus to date myself and to have fun and to make new friends at some point, like those are my focuses, because I know that like when I'm living fully, I know that person is just going to find me. I know like it's just a matter of time. And most of all, I know that like I want to build a meaningful relationship. I'm a lover girly, and I want that for myself, but I don't want to depend on it, because when you depend on it, you are not able to do the work that you need to do. You're not able to detach enough to be conscious in your relationship, because you're more focused and you're so scared of losing the relationship, or you're scared and focused on not losing the relationship so much that you end up losing yourself. You're not really prioritizing your needs or your desires. You're not like, you're not really looking into those things, because the most important thing is that you stay with that person. And when you're in that energy, you end up coming out of alignment and sacrificing yourself and losing yourself in the process, and not losing yourself in a good way, because you have losing yourself in a good way when you're exploring yourself, but you also have losing yourself in a bad way, which is when you're sacrificing your well-being over and over again, and you're, sacrificing your integrity, and you're neglecting yourself just so that you're chosen, just so that you gain something out of someone or whatever, right? So those are two different things. And so to me, that's the most important thing. I do not want to be in a position where I'm losing myself for a guy. And I know that life is so much fuller than I thought it was, because now I see there's so much more to life. And knowing that and creating that fullness only makes me feel like more in my purpose, and more like I'm building something meaningful for myself. And ultimately, like, if you truly want to live life fully, you have to be also giving to all these different parts. That's the only way you can make your life fuller, is by nurturing more, nurturing more of your life, not just your relationship, not just your friendships, not just that one thing that without it you feel like you're gonna die and you have nothing going on for you. Like, you should have multiple things going on for you. Like, if I don't have a business, I should feel like I still have myself, and I still have my life, and I still have things that make me happy at the end of the day. Your life shouldn't depend on just one thing, on just one structure, or just one single, thingy. That's not how buildings work. You need multiple pillars. That's the word I was trying to get at. You need multiple pillars in order to fully create a sustainable and strong foundation. And that should be your priority. And that was it. Okay. I want to say that this is kind of the work that we're doing inside Patreon. I really want to give you the foundations that will help you feel so secure in yourself, from building emotional safety to really loving yourself and knowing what you value and what you don't, from feeling connected to your soul and to your inner child and learning to be your own compass and building that confidence, building that inner structure from the inside out so that you can become the standard of the things that you want to attract. That's really what the Patreon is all about. And I'm creating weekly drops in there, so definitely go check it out. I love you, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.